KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
Welcome to the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno Clovis. Our guest this week is Kiel Schmidt. He is with Food Commons Fresno. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Sevag.
Before we talk about Food Commons Fresno, which, by the way, I'm following, there's been some developments, exciting developments for you in growth perspectives.
Definitely.
Before we go there, let's talk about you. I talked to you years ago when this program was just a radio program. How have you been?
I'm getting good. At that time, I was deep in the architecture industry. That was my profession, getting a lot of community-related work around high-quality design in the valley. I've since kind of taken a right turn into food and agriculture, so that's been an exciting exploration.
Even back then, though, we're on Facebook together, and even back then, though, I noticed that you were always into kind of the food and growing and stuff like that, right? I mean, this sounds like...
Yeah, the thing that kind of kicked me into that direction was that my brother and I started an urban farm called Tower Urban Family Farm, and that got me very interested in high quality food and what our food system in the Fresno was like, and a lot of advocacy related to land use for agriculture within the city. Also being involved with the general plan process for the city of Fresno, and those two things combined kind of kicked me into a trajectory where I was hired as the development manager for Food Commons Fresno.
So you go into architecture, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in a new area.
Yeah.
Are you glad life kind of, and I want to say it this way because life kind of gradually sent you this direction?
Sure. The architecture profession is a lot about problem solving, working as a team, coming up with creative solutions for things. So the things I've learned in that process are applicable anywhere. And I was always on the kind of edge of architecture. I wasn't, wanting to work at a typical firm, do typical architectural work. I always wanted to kind of push the envelope or pursue projects that didn't have funding, those kinds of things.
So you somehow end up at Food Commons Fresno. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I had worked on the general plan for the city of Fresno, which we had passed as a really progressive plan, excited to have it in place that preserves much more of our agricultural land, speaks about complete communities, not just having a neighborhood that's housing and commercial neighborhoods, but having the parks and having everything that goes into like a healthy neighborhood. In that process, I was seeing that developers weren't generally interested in doing that kind of work, opening grocery stores in poor neighborhoods that lack access, preserving our agricultural land rather than building housing on it. So those were getting me interested in leaving the architectural profession to work in development. And that is what kind of caught the eye of Food Commons Fresno that was starting in Fresno at that time, of launching this prototype of a kind of new design of a local food system. And my kind of development interest and architectural interest played into that pretty well.
So Food Commons Fresno, first of all, congratulations. Not too long ago, you expanded into Madera, or somebody in Madera teamed up with you.
Yeah, so we started, we just had our 2-year anniversary of operations. We started in May of 2015 by purchasing the CSA business from Tom and S. Willie. They had an organic farm in Madera, and they were kind of very well-renowned organic farmers and looking for their pathway to retirement because none of their kids were going into agriculture, so they didn't have that as an option. So we purchased that part of the business and continued to nurture that relationship, and they were ready to retire completely out of production farming, and it worked well for our timing to be able to take over the lease of the farm and continue the organic production there.
What is a CSA?
CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. This is a term that, as it started, was a way for a community to invest in a local farm to help it get its production for the season going, and then the benefit from that they would get would be a box of vegetables and fruits every week. As time is going on, the model has evolved to be more of a subscription model for families where they can subscribe to different farm products and get it as a convenience and a service, but still having that connection to the farm. So we have Ubi out of our own backyards that is a subscription service for people, families and individuals to be able to get their share of organic fruits and vegetables for the week.
So is it the same vegetables for each week? Or, I mean, if I subscribe,
Yeah.
what am I getting? Do I know what I'm getting, or sometimes it's just whatever's growing?
There's so many variables that go into it. The weather for the week, the season of what's available on local farms, what's a high quality product or what might have been damaged by the weather. So every week, our supply coordinator, Brian Kiel, works on sourcing product from local farms. So he'll find out what's available, what's a good price that week, because sometimes when it's heavy production, you might get a dip in pricing, so people get more food for their dollar. And he also has the parameter of trying to keep it interesting week to week. So like while something, zucchini might be in season, giving zucchini in somebody's box every week, they get overwhelmed by it, and then they find their refrigerator full of 10 pounds of zucchini and think about quitting because why do they have so many zucchini? So we'll like switch it up, and you'll see some different varieties here. We've got zucchini squash, and then the yellow patty pan squash to keep people interested. They're both summer squash and they have similar flavors, but it's got a different color. You can use them differently. So that's what we'll try to do week to week, that you'll have different varieties of fruits and vegetables in your box to keep you interested.
So you mentioned off the air that your prices are pretty market fair.
Yeah, we've done price comparisons in grocery stores with organic produce. More and more grocery stores are carrying organic, so you're seeing that organic section. There's usually a premium price, and there's a reason for that with the extra care that goes into the product. But we've seen many times in grocery stores that our prices are at or below what you could get it at the grocery store. Some of the things you can't even get at the grocery store because we work directly with farmers and have more interesting products that aren't always carried by a traditional store. As well as we accept EBT for the Ubi box. So anybody that's receiving food assistance can use their EBT card, as well as we give a subsidy to those purchases called Everyone Eats, where we have a fund that different nonprofits and customers have donated into to help with food accessibility.
First, let's talk about the subscription process.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? I go on, I sign up, and then a box is prepared for me?
Yeah, you go on to ubi.com. If you sign up before Friday, you're going to get a box the next week. And you put in your name and you put your address, and it gives you some options about which drop site that you would like to pick up at, which days you want to pick up. You enter in your credit card information and you're good to go. You'll have a dashboard that shows you what's coming every week of what products are going to be in the box, what we call our sneak peek. You can exclude certain items. You have some customization options. And then we encourage customers to add anything extra that they'd like. We have different grocery options, as well as, if you're a big fan of blueberries, you can order extra blueberries to have those come in each week.
Why is organic so important or so, quote unquote, sexy? Because, lately, and I say it that way because lately we're seeing organic everywhere. Organic. Why all of a sudden organic? What is it about organic that's catchy?
If you follow any of the kind of market trends in grocery and food, organics is one of the fastest growing segments in food sales. So there's, that demand for it is growing, and people are putting their dollars toward that idea. The important aspects for us is that we believe strongly in sustainable agriculture and finding solutions that we can continue to grow high quality food that doesn't harm the environment, doesn't harm the workers that have to handle it, and doesn't have any kind of pesticide residues that might harm the people that consume it. So that's a big interest of ours. Certified organic is a set of standards that a farm will meet, and there's a third party inspector that will come out to the farm every year and check over the records to make sure they're not using any fertilizers or pesticides that are on the list that you can't use for organic. They check your seed purchasing to check that you're using all organic seed and no GMOs. So those are important aspects for us, and that there's a third party that's actually looking at it. Because sometimes you get confused when you go in the grocery store and there's so many different marketing terms, all natural and no additives and raw or gluten-free or natural, and all these things that not everybody's looking and making sure that that standard is actually being met. Organics is one of those that if you see an organic label on it, you can be assured that it's met a set of standards and that there's a third party looking over it.
Fresno, are we new to this? I mean, is this something we've been doing for a long time? Other than Food Commons Fresno, has there been an organization that's been doing this? I mean, and the second part of the question, would you call us late to the party, or is this just evolving nationwide?
No, I mean, agriculture has been involved in the Valley's culture and the Valley's history since it started. So I think if you look back at any time in our history, you'll see innovation, you'll see interesting things happening. A lot of trends have come out of Fresno rather than coming in. So as far as us with the local food system, in some ways it's looking back to how things were when they're, some of these third and fourth generation farmers that have gotten big and do compete on the global market and export a lot of food. They started as their grandfather, their great grandfather, filling up the pickup truck and taking it down to a produce hub downtown and unloading it, selling it there. So we're looking at that. An old way of doing it, but using today's technology, using today's communications technologies to kind of bring that back to life so that we have a local food system that's robust, that's getting food to every neighborhood in Fresno in a kind of efficient and effective way. We grow so much great food here. And we've built a system that can quickly get it to the global market, but that's left behind a lot of neighborhoods and leaves some gaps in our system that it can be hard to buy the local food here in our own markets. And so that's the niche that we're trying to fill.
So you've brought some things for us today.
I have.
And so the camera will kind of zoom into some of this stuff as you talk about it.
We've got organic blueberries from Homegrown Organics. They're based out of Porterville and Kingsburg. They grow really top quality blueberries. They also do a lot of stone fruit and citrus. So that's one of the farms we love to work with.
And I want to just mention one thing. Where is that the organic sign you're talking about? You mentioned
So it says USDA organic. There's different labels for organic. Sometimes it's CCOF, which is California Organic Farmers.
So for our audience members listening on the radio, we are looking at a box of organic blueberries from Porterville. Which farm is this from?
It's from Homegrown Organics.
Homegrown Organics, and there is in the upper kind of left-hand corner, there's a little logo that says USDA Organic. So if I see this at the store, I can pretty much assure that it's been certified, correct?
Correct, yes. It's against the law to put that label on there if you haven't met the standards. And they actually do go after people for labeling their product organic without going through the certification process.
So what else do we have here?
We've got a couple of summer squash varieties. We've got zucchini and patty pan squash. These are from my brother's urban farm called Tower Urban Family Farm, or TUF for short, because we're tough urban kids. And then I brought some nectarines from Masamoto Family Farm. They've got really top quality fruit that they grow, heirloom varieties out in Delray. The Masamoto family is really wonderful. And they have this program that's called OUFAB. It's called Organic Ugly Fabulous. And they want to encourage people to not discard the food that might not meet all the visual tests of stuff that you see in the grocery store. Because a lot of farmers will experience that, stuff that they grow can't get to market because it might have a blemish, or the weather was bad that year and it made it look in a different way, or it was too small. So they try to sell that stuff locally, and we work with them on a partnership. I'm going to slice this nectarine here.
So on the
you.
top of this nectarine,
Yeah, so there's a little scar here from where the branch laid across
Right.
it. It's also super ripe, so it's a little right at that squishy point, which means it's the best flavor, but it's not going to last trucking it across the state in a, bouncing around in a box.
So if it was me and I was at the store, you're right about something. If it was me and I saw this at the store, I probably would pass up on it
Yeah.
because of that blemish, not realizing that, you know what, this probably tastes delicious.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we were trying to kind of educate consumers about. If you want a piece of this.
Sure, let me try it.
That, just because it's not aesthetically pleasing doesn't mean that it's not the best fruit you've ever
And
tasted.
it tastes very good, by the way. It tastes very good, but I think it's creative what they've done. The fruit with the blemishes, people are going to pass up. But what they're saying is don't pass it up because of the blemish. It might still taste delicious.
Exactly. And, having different standards of beauty that, beauty can be flavor and aroma, that it's not, we've kind of been programmed to pick our food based on how it looks. And looks can be deceiving when you're in the grocery store, that something might be brightly colored or blemish-free, but that doesn't mean that it's got the most nutrition or that it was, from a local farm or anything like that. So kind of digging a little deeper into the food that you eat.
And you might know the answer to this or might not. So I don't want to put you on the spot. But sometimes when I go to the grocery store, I'm buying tomatoes. And they're shiny and
Yep.
they look very good. And, they kind of catch your eye. Is something on top of that?
Different farms do, there's some coatings that are kind of typically done. I don't know if they do it on tomatoes. Apples often have like a kind of a wax coat that's edible and it's not harmful at all. It's been tested and everything, but it's there to keep the aesthetic looking good. It's not there to, kind of keep the fruit. Might keep it a couple extra days without it spoiling or something like that.
So the typical ubi, going back to ubi, where you go online, you subscribe, and then you can go somewhere and pick it up. How much fruit and vegetables is in there? Is it like a week long, 2 week long?
Yeah, so we have 4 different sizes, so you get to choose what's right for your family. You might be, just a couple, and, the small box is going to have about 6 vegetable varieties and 2 to 3 fruit varieties in there to kind of be enough for you to cook a couple meals out of and have some snacks. But you might be that same couple, but you do juicing every morning and you want extra leafy greens and you want extra fruits and things like that. So we have our small box, which is at $16. We have a medium box at $21, a large box that's $28, and then our Uber box, we call it Ubi. We added ER onto it for Uber. That box costs $35 and it's just jam-packed with so much fruit that's fruits and vegetables that would be good for a family cooking their meals, or somebody that just eats their 5 a day and does juicing and things like that. So it's really, you get to customize which size is for you.
Let's go back to the farm. We were talking off air a little bit that there's 75 acres there and you're farming a few of those acres. Is the goal eventually to expand throughout the farm?
Yes, we just took over the T&D Willie farm in January and started with a couple rows of lettuce and kale. It was a very wet winter, so it was hard to get too much in the ground. But we've got tomatoes planted now, several rows of that. So we've got about 2 acres, 3 acres in production. And our hope is to, by next winter, kind of have the whole farm back into full production. So part of it is reserved for a cover crop, so it's not a crop that's harvested. It's, this is one of the organic techniques, is that you plant different legumes or mustard that do beneficial things to the soil, and you just till them under when they're done, and you let that soil rest rather than planting something every season.
So that's an interesting concept. So you plant something and then you till it, but you're not planting it so that you eat it, you're planting it so that it keeps the nutrients in the soil.
Yeah, so there's different varieties of beans and peas, or what you call legumes, have a little nodules on their roots that are nitrogen fixing. So they're pulling nitrogen out of the air, which is one of the kind of main ingredients of air is carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen. So it's pulling it out of the air and fixing it into the soil. So it's making those nutrients available for plants to use into the future. So when you have that plant growing and then you just till it under, all its nutrients are going into the ground. And the hope there is that you don't have to put as many fertilizers and pulling inputs on the farm from off the farm in order to grow good quality crops. So that's one of those sustainable techniques where you're creating these cycles that are producing productivity.
Talk about food deserts a little bit. You mentioned it a little earlier on in the program. We really have a problem with food deserts in this town, do we?
We do. There's a lot of neighborhoods in town that the grocery stores have closed. The primary places that you're able to get food without driving, for several miles is corner stores, which don't stock the healthiest things. Lots of chips and lots of shelf-stable stuff and sweet treats and sugary beverages that neighbors that want to be eating healthy, and a lot of people do. It's not something that people go out every day and like, I don't want to eat healthy. I want to eat, I want to eat this garbage every day. It's that you don't have many options, and you don't have many affordable options. So we want to be targeting neighborhoods within Fresno that don't have grocery stores. And again, that's that filling a demand where it's not being met by the traditional market.
One thing you said earlier, which I think is very creative and is an excellent thing you're doing, is you have this pot of money, I guess, people are donating in, and so
it's called Everybody Eats.
Let's hit on that a little bit more. So how does that pot grow, and then how do you distribute that?
Yeah, so there's been some foundations that have donated into it. San Joaquin Valley Central California Community Foundation has granted us money that went into there, as well as the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund. And many of our customers that are, have good means, because there's, some of our customers live healthy living and, have money to give back. They, some even donate every week, that they'll put some money into their own box and then they're donating into that fund. And anybody that purchases an Ubi box from us with their EBT card, we apply a 10% subsidy onto that with the Everyone Eats Fund, so that it doesn't harm our business to be able to contribute that funding, and they get their dollars for fresh produce goes further.
Are you seeing people with EBTs using them for fruit and vegetables? Because you know what the misconception or the stereotype is, that if people are on EBT, they're getting the sugary, they're getting all of this non-healthy stuff. But you're allowing people to use it. Obviously, they're using it. There's
certain things that are allowed to purchase, and I don't kind of pass any judgments on what somebody is able to use their funds for. Everybody gets to make their own choices. A lot of it comes into access again. If you're looking at our poorer neighborhoods within the city, you see a lot of corner stores with EBT. We accept EBT signs on them, and they've been able to get approved, and there's certain things within the store that they're able to sell. And so that's what is accessible, and that's what's easy to purchase. And what we're trying to do is make local organic food the easy, affordable option.
Is eventually the goal to deliver boxes to people's homes? I mean, you're a few years away from that, or maybe you're not, but is that the goal eventually?
It is one of our options. We actually have a customer survey going on right now where existing customers, as well as people that are interested, can take the website to get the survey is bit.ly/ubi2017, and you go there, and we've got a lot of different product questions that we're exploring to offer people, and one of those is home delivery. We've done some different research on the extra packaging that we'd have to do and the cost of third-party delivery to get it to everybody's door, because we don't have a full truck fleet to be able to do deliveries yet. It's about a $10 premium, and that not everybody's going to be able to afford that. So that's one question that we're asking customers, is how many people are interested in that. We've got other products that we're tailoring for some students. We're working with both Fresno State and UC Merced on starting Ubi drop sites at the schools, and they want students to be able to have a product that fits them, that they don't do as much cooking, they don't have a full kitchen, that kind of thing. So we're calling one a snack pack that's mostly fruits and has some nuts and like vegetables that you would eat raw, like carrots or celery. And then we have another one called Lunchbox, which gives you what you need for the week of lunches. You know, you might get a local loaf of bread with some local cheese and lunch meats that come with it, and then, you know, lettuce off of our farm and some tomatoes off of our farm and maybe an onion and locally produced mustard. That kind of stuff would all be in one box for you to make your lunches for the week.
I love the creativity here because it seems like you're trying to get your product out there in a very creative, technology-friendly way.
Yeah.
Kyle, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We've been recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno Clovis. Our guest has been Kyle Schmidt. He's with Food Commons Fresno. Thank you to the volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible. We couldn't do this program without you. You're in the studios now making us look and sound good. Thank you to those watching this broadcast on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99, the Community Media Access Collaborative channels, and to those who are listening on KFSR 90.7 FM. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.